Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Since you all really enjoyed the last video in this series, we're keeping it going for as long as you want. And heads up, part 2 of the last video will be dropping soon, so if you don't want to miss it, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Alright, let's dive into today's story. It's absolutely wild. A supernatural event shakes the world, bringing chaos. It wasn't a simple natural disaster. Mythical creatures suddenly appear. Amidst the chaos, a cloaked figure emerges, standing out as if he expected all of this. A massive, terrifying army of creatures gathers, ready for battle. Their sheer number is overwhelming, signaling an unprecedented threat. At the center of it all, a colossal and mysterious tower looms, promising power and strength to those who dare to challenge it. The protagonist reflects on the names given to these entities and their underlying purposes. A glimpse of the powerful beings behind it all, the so-called supreme beings. Each appears more awe-inspiring and imposing, offering strength or riches in exchange for submission. The tower sends out a clear message. Satisfy them, and anything you desire will be yours. A dangerous and tempting offer. The narrator identifies these supreme beings as the masterminds behind everything, challenging logic and presenting impossible choices. Despite the government's efforts to block access, no one can resist the tower's pull. The government's resistance fails, and explosions erupt as the tower's power overwhelms all defenses. Gods and demons show no mercy. Any attempt to defy or neglect them is met with instant punishment, showcasing their unmatched authority. The protagonist, brimming with confidence, declares his intent to conquer the 600th floor of the tower, something humanity has never achieved. He steps forward, unleashing a devastating energy slash that cuts through the enemy lines, leaving everyone stunned. A massive explosion erupts at the tower, signaling that the upcoming challenges will be even more intense, perhaps catastrophic. Another massive explosion engulfs the tower, symbolizing the intense battles and unpredictable challenges ahead. The protagonist, visibly frustrated, demands that no one interfere with his plans. He is resolute in pursuing his path without distractions. A group called 9-Star is introduced, consisting of 9 legendary individuals who reach the top among billions of challengers. The group is described as having acquired magic and divine powers within the tower, now striving for even higher achievements. The protagonist unleashes his fury, declaring that no one can stop him. His power visibly grows as he channels a dark energy. He is identified as one of the strongest members of 9-Star, Diuzinn Hyok, who, while not a master of weapons, is a formidable challenger. Diuzinn Hyok invokes a macabre power, with his dark energy resurrecting the dead and instilling terror in his enemies. A Death Guardian emerges, a terrifying figure surrounded by a dark aura, solidifying the sense of impending danger. The narrator reveals the protagonist as the world's greatest necromancer. He seems to disdain ideals of peace and humanity, favoring chaos instead. Surrounded by his dark creations, Diuzinn Hyok mocks discussions of humanity and peace, fully intent on imposing his will. Diuzinn Hyok declares his insatiable desire for power, vowing to become the strongest being with his dark summons. The betrayal is revealed. Cha has allied with demons, betraying humanity. Chaos erupts as allies and enemies clash. 9-Star decides to act. One of the leaders declares that there is no choice. Diuzinn Hyok must be punished for his betrayal. In an intense battle, Cha faces his former allies, who have now turned against him in a quest for justice. Divine spells and powerful attacks light up the battlefield. 9-Star uses all their might to try to defeat him. Cha begins to falter. Despite his strength and summons, he cannot face them all alone. 9-Star's final assault is brutal. They attack together, ready to eliminate the traitor once and for all. Cha's face reflects despair and pain. He realizes his power might not be enough to prevail. A devastating blow throws him to the ground. The impact is final, symbolizing his downfall. As Cha agonizes, the narrator reveals that this is just a story. The protagonist's fate ultimately ends as a legend told. The betrayal against Diuzinn Hyok is revealed. Out of the 9 stars, 8 turned against him, changing the course of history. However, this part of the story was never made public. 10 years have passed since the events at the tower, leaving this tale untold. The narrative shifts to a mundane setting, a kitchen with simple utensils, reflecting an ordinary life. A dark room appears, with a figure sleeping, restless sounds escaping as if they're trapped in a nightmare. The figure mumbles in their sleep, calling out for 9-star, seemingly reliving the past. Suddenly, he wakes up yelling, filled with anger, cursing those who betrayed him. Still disoriented, he tries to make sense of the situation. The scene shows his unease as he processes everything. A smile spreads across his face. He realizes he has achieved something extraordinary, a secret ability. His eyes shine as he reflects on his new ability, called Soul Succession. The ability is explained. Near death, his magic would transport him to another body, ensuring his survival. He's alive and ready to start anew. Cha Jin-hyuk notices that his ability successfully found a compatible body, allowing him to start over. He also realizes the body is Korean, making his adaptation easier. His anger grows as he recalls the betrayal by 9-star, clenching his fist tightly while reflecting on how he was used by his former allies. He mentally revisits the moment he cleared the 600th floor alone, realizing his supposed allies only cooperated to betray him without hesitation in the end. In a dark flashback, Chao is shown fallen and spitting blood, still trying to understand the reasons behind the betrayal as his defeat becomes certain. Cain and Carmen, members of 9-star, appear and activate a divine barrier, completely blocking his ability to summon monsters and removing his greatest weapon. Carmen, with a sarcastic tone, remarks that he was always known as a one-man army but never realized how truly alone he was. In his memories, Cha tries to justify his actions, explaining that everything he did was to help his comrades, believing he was acting for the greater good. Cain, with a relaxed yet cruel tone, reveals there was no hatred against Cha, but he was used because he was a convenient tool at the time. Cain coldly declares that Cha was simply a convenient target for the group's plans, discarded after being exploited. Cain's expression shifts to a sadistic smile as he reaffirms that Cha was never more than a useful and easily manipulated tool. Cha Jin-hyuk, with a desperate expression, calls out for his former ally, Choi Kyung-hoon, trying to understand the reasons behind the betrayal. Choi Kyung-hoon, a star of 9-star, is revealed as someone who didn't even participate in the attack on the 600th floor, highlighting his absence during critical moments. Cha realizes that no one there will help him. Wounded and surrounded, he accepts the betrayal but harbors resentment, labeling everyone as traitors. His vision begins to blur, and the blood loss weighs on his body. He realizes that his defeat is inevitable and resigns to his fate. With his remaining energy, he admits defeat, convinced there is no way to escape death this time. However, something inside him awakens. He swears this won't be the end as dark energy starts to envelop him. Observing Cain and Carmen in the distance, Cha vows to return stronger, pointing to the betrayal as his motivation to restart. He feeds on intense hatred, swearing revenge against all those who betrayed him, determined to make them pay for their actions. Cha is defeated, his body falls to the ground. However, his determination to fight back remains unshaken. In a new scene, a man wakes up, clearly shaken, muttering with difficulty, indicating that something has shifted in his reality. Still filled with anger, Cha vows not only to defeat those who betrayed him, but also to use them as part of his summoning army, threatening to destroy their souls completely. A sudden sound interrupts his thoughts. The persistent ringing of a phone pulls his attention away from his anger. Confused, he sits up in bed and looks around, trying to understand what's happening. The ringing continues, piquing his curiosity further. He grabs the object emitting the sound, realizing it's a phone. Though surprised, he begins to process the situation. Cha reflects for a moment, recalling how long it's been since he last used something so trivial before entering the tower. Suddenly, something on the phone catches his attention, causing him to widen his eyes and focus on the screen. He discovers the current date, 2023. The realization that 10 years have passed since his last memory shocks him deeply. Sitting on the bed, he reflects on the lost time, questioning why his ability took so long to find a compatible body. Amidst his doubts, he considers the possibility of still being able to use his abilities in this new body, showing determination to test his limits. He remains seated on the bed, surrounded by silence interrupted only by ambient sounds. As he processes everything that has happened, the protagonist claps his hands dramatically, as if calling for something to happen, radiating determination and focus. Standing on the bed, he stares at the small entity in his palm, a glowing halo hovering above it, clearly waiting for a reaction. Observing the situation, he lets out a reflective sound, seemingly contemplating what just happened or what might come next. With intensity, he commands the small entity in his hand to rise, his eyes glowing ominously, surrounded by a dark aura. Still standing on the bed, he questions whether the command worked, looking at his hand expectantly while narrating his struggle. Frustrated, he shouts at the entity to get up immediately, pushing himself harder as if his willpower alone could achieve it. Realizing the problem, he curses, admitting he lacks the essential power mana to make his efforts succeed in this body. Peeking out of the window, he connects the dots, expressing surprise and coming to a realization about his surroundings. Staring at the imposing tower in the city skyline, he resigns himself to the challenge ahead, acknowledging he must start the journey over. Sitting with his phone, he reflects on the time that has passed. 10 years. He wonders if the ones he left behind have advanced further in their quest for supremacy. Scrolling quickly through his phone, he finds some alarming updates and fixates on the screen. The headline announces that Choi Kyung-hoon has reached the 800th floor of the tower, with a flashy image of him displayed proudly. Shocked, he stares at his phone, internally cursing and expressing disbelief that Kyung-hoon managed to climb 200 more floors in 10 years. His initial frustration turns into grim determination as he decides this is the perfect opportunity to strike while the others are at the top. Swiftly grabbing his hoodie, he prepares to leave, his resolve to act immediately evident. Wearing the hoodie and eyes glowing with power, he concludes that training outside the tower would be pointless and decides to enter immediately. In a dark vision of his potential, surrounded by skeletons and dark magic, he acknowledges that while his body may be new, his mind retains all his experience and knowledge. With burning eyes, he promises vengeance on 9-star, vowing to make them pay for everything. The narrative shifts to the tower's entrance in Seoul, a grand and foreboding structure towering into the clouds. Blending into the crowd, he walks toward the tower with purpose, ready to begin his ascent once more. The protagonist claps his hands dramatically, as if calling for something to happen, radiating determination and focus. Standing on the bed, he stares at the small entity in his palm, a glowing halo hovering above it, clearly waiting for a reaction. Observing the situation, he lets out a reflective sound, seemingly contemplating what just happened or what might come next. With intensity, he commands the small entity in his hand to rise, his eyes glowing ominously, surrounded by a dark aura. Still standing on the bed, he questions whether the command worked, looking at his hand expectantly while narrating his struggle. Frustrated, he shouts at the entity to get up immediately, pushing himself harder as if his willpower alone could achieve it. Realizing the problem, he curses, admitting he lacks the essential power mana to make his efforts succeed in this body. Peeking out of the window, he connects the dots, expressing surprise and coming to a realization about his surroundings. Staring at the imposing tower in the city skyline, he resigns himself to the challenge ahead, acknowledging he must start the journey over. Sitting with his phone, he reflects on the time that has passed. 10 years. He wonders if the ones he left behind have advanced further in their quest for supremacy. The headline announces that Choi Kyung-hoon has reached the 800th floor of the tower, with a flashy image of him displayed proudly. Shocked, he stares at his phone, internally cursing and expressing disbelief that Kyung-hoon managed to climb 200 more floors in 10 years. His initial frustration turns into grim determination as he decides this is the perfect opportunity to strike while the others are at the top. Swiftly grabbing his hoodie, he prepares to leave, his resolve to act immediately evident. Wearing the hoodie and eyes glowing with power, he concludes that training outside the tower would be pointless and decides to enter immediately. In a dark vision of his potential, surrounded by skeletons and dark magic, he acknowledges that while his body may be new, his mind retains all his experience and knowledge. With burning eyes, He promises vengeance on 9-star, vowing to make them pay for everything. The narrative shifts to the tower's entrance in Seoul, a grand and foreboding structure towering into the clouds. Blending into the crowd, he walks toward the tower with purpose, ready to begin his ascent once more. A lively discussion unfolds among the people outside the tower. One man boasts about getting rich upon entering, while another mocks him, doubting his survival beyond the first floor. Meanwhile, the protagonist listens silently in the background. Reflecting on the scene, he notes how the tower attracts people from all walks of life, each with their own story and ambitions. The setting shifts to a mysterious interior, with an ancient spiral staircase lit by eerie blue flames, hinting at the challenges within. A stone room is revealed, featuring an ominous coffin in the center, radiating an unsettling atmosphere. The coffin creaks open, revealing a skull with a glowing eye, signaling the reawakening of something sinister. A fiery scene emerges, with the protagonist preparing to dive back into the chaos, his resolve palpable as he steps into the inferno. A young woman runs through the burning forest, her determined expression hinting at her struggle for survival amidst the flames. A golden object is flipped into the air, symbolizing a decision or gamble, as if fate is being sealed. A masked figure, surrounded by piles of gold and armed with knives, introduces himself as Diuzinn, suggesting his pivotal role in the unfolding story. A lively discussion arises near the tower's entrance. A man brags about becoming rich by entering, while another mocks him, predicting his failure on the first floor. The protagonist quietly observes, walking among the crowd, his hood shadowing his face. As he watches, the protagonist reflects on the nature of the tower, a place where people from all walks of life, each with different dreams and ambitions, gather. It is a hub of chaos and opportunity. The scene transitions inside the tower, revealing a grand staircase surrounded by ancient columns and glowing blue flames. The atmosphere is heavy, signaling the weight of what lies ahead. In a secluded chamber, a mysterious coffin sits on a pedestal. The eerie silence of the room is broken by faint sounds of movement, adding to the tension. The lid of the coffin slowly opens, revealing a skeletal figure with a glowing blue eye. This awakening is sinister, foretelling danger. Flames engulf a nearby forest, painting the scene in red and orange. The protagonist prepares to dive into the chaos, his internal monologue stating his readiness to face whatever comes. Amidst the flames, a young woman sprints desperately. Her expression reveals fear and determination, hinting at a personal struggle or urgent mission. In a moment of dramatic tension, a golden object is tossed into the air, as if a gamble or a decision is being made, symbolizing the weight of fate. The story shifts to a dark, opulent setting where a masked man sits confidently. Surrounded by piles of gold and sharp weapons, he introduces himself as Diuzinn, claiming a significant role in the unfolding events. The protagonist steps forward amidst the crowd at the tower's base, the monumental structure rising into the clouds. The entrance looms, and he walks with purpose, blending in but clearly determined to begin his journey anew. In a quiet alley illuminated by the moonlight, a small, glowing fox walks calmly, its mysterious presence contrasting with the stillness of the scene. In a lively marketplace, a figure with horns and a long cloak exudes authority, vowing to spread something ominous throughout the area. The horned figure looks to the side, their sharp profile and determined expression hinting at their seriousness and underlying plans. Back at the tower's entrance, a glowing portal opens, and the announcement signals its activation. The crowd erupts with excitement and urgency. As the command to enter is given, the crowd rushes forward, but the protagonist strides calmly in the center, exuding confidence and focus amidst the chaos. Smirking under his hood, his eyes glow with power as he declares his quest for revenge is about to begin. The protagonist and others walk into the portal, which radiates an intense, blinding light, symbolizing the start of their new journey. The doors to the tower slam shut behind them with an ominous finality, sealing off the world outside. Inside, the protagonist finds himself on a glowing ritualistic platform, the system welcoming him as a challenger in this mysterious domain. Reflecting inwardly, he calculates the time that has passed, 15 years since his first journey. his resolve solidifying for the trials ahead. The protagonist steps onto a glowing bridge, greeted by the words, "Welcome to the tutorial stage," setting the tone for a trial ahead. Scoffing, he dismisses the term tutorial as misleading, reflecting on how this stage is infamous for its extreme difficulty, far from what the name implies. A long, narrow corridor lined with glowing blue walls stretches out before him, described as filled with traps that take days to navigate, making it the most grueling of the first 10 floors. A glowing objective screen appears, outlining the challenge. Survive the traps and reach the destination, with all damage being restored upon completion or returning to the start. Determined to assess his new body, the protagonist activates a status window, preparing to gauge his capabilities. The window reveals dismal stats, all attributes at 1, with the only notable traits being gluttony and a mysterious unknown trait, leaving him horrified at his weakness. Shocked, he processes the traits, especially confused by gluttony and his new manga-type classification, which differ from his previous life. Reflecting on his past, he realizes his current stats are a far cry from his former self, questioning if physical and soul-based traits have changed. Stretching, he prepares himself mentally and physically, acknowledging the difficulty ahead, but ready to take on the challenge. Smirking with determination, he resolves to make the most out of this so-called tutorial, vowing to take every advantage possible. The protagonist steps forward with resolve, the sound of his foot hitting the ground signaling the start of the trial. He sprints ahead, the wind swirling around him as he gains momentum, his speed showcasing his determination to face whatever lies ahead. A notification pops up. He has left the starting point. Another follows, warning him of an activated magical arrow trap. Smiling confidently, he turns his head as red arrows zip through the air, narrowly avoiding one with sharp reflexes. Observing the trap, he grins and comments sarcastically about the arrows being visible only once they're shot, realizing his prior knowledge is practically useless. More arrows light up the corridor, their paths unpredictable as he clenches his fist, preparing to navigate the increasing danger. Dodging the relentless barrage, he jokes to himself about the excessive welcome, implying the difficulty is absurd even for a tutorial. Running at full speed, he skillfully avoids another wave of arrows, the intensity of the trap making every step critical. A sudden sound grabs his attention, and he quickly glances to the side, anticipating the next threat. An arrow finally grazes him, his body tensing from the impact as he grimaces but continues moving, determined not to fall this early. The protagonist, narrowly dodging arrows, pushes forward with determination, telling himself to hold on a little longer despite the odds stacking against him. He looks up, only to see dozens of red lights shining ominously, signaling an even larger wave of magical arrows ready to fire. The barrage begins, and he desperately tries to weave through the relentless storm of arrows, his movements increasingly frantic and precise. Despite his best efforts, multiple arrows hit him, his body taking severe damage as blood spurts from the wounds. Refusing to give up, he continues running, gritting his teeth through the pain, determined to push further even as the arrows rain down on him. His vision blurs, and his body collapses, unable to handle the accumulated damage, signaling his failure in this attempt. Falling back into the starting zone, his bloodied body resets as the magical platform heals him completely, readying him for another try. Gasping for breath, he slowly lifts himself up, wincing from the phantom pain, a notification confirming his return to the starting point. Determined to test his limits, he smirks slightly, declaring that his first priority is seeing how long he can endure the relentless traps. Clenching his fists, he steels himself for another round, acknowledging the pain but fully committed to overcoming the seemingly impossible challenge. The protagonist steps into the tutorial area, a mysterious space. Observing the blood on the floor, he realizes he needs to stop acting impulsively and start thinking ahead. He touches the blood and reflects on his unique powers. He attributes his status as the strongest challenger on Earth to 2 specific traits he possesses. In an intense moment, he activates a special power. His glowing eyes and confident expression show that he's ready to use all his strength to overcome the situation. He unleashes the gluttony skill, which consumes non-living elements and turns them into something entirely his own. The scene is filled with powerful energy surrounding him. The protagonist explains that the spilled blood, being lifeless, can be absorbed for experience. He declares that all the experience gained will be his, further strengthening his power. A screen appears, resembling a game interface, showing he's been rewarded. All stats have increased, and he's gained greater XP tolerance. Bars display the damage he has endured. Looking at the screen, he notes his XP tolerance has improved. Though some system mechanics seem annoying, he accepts them and focuses on the challenges ahead. An arrow hits him, but he stays calm. Determined, he plans to use the tutorial time to grow and become an exceptional challenger. Despite being hit by arrows, he vows to endure and move forward. He decides to increase his stats solely through the gluttony skill, facing all obstacles head-on. Amid constant attacks, he runs toward the limit of his XP tolerance. His goal is clear: reach maximum strength and experience, no matter the cost. The status screen displays the protagonist's growing tolerance to various conditions, such as pain and blood loss, reflecting his progress over time. A month passes, and the story shifts forward, suggesting the protagonist has spent this entire time honing his skills and endurance. With blood on his face and an exhausted expression, he shows the toll of intense training and trials he's endured. He approaches the final portal, with arrows still embedded in his back, showcasing his unshakable determination to finish the challenge. Crossing through the portal, a message announces he has completed the tutorial. He casually reflects on the time spent, realizing it took a month, but he seems relieved. A new message appears, revealing that his performance is drawing the attention of powerful beings, including gods and demons. He reacts with slight surprise, acknowledging that his efforts have caught the eyes of external forces. Already familiar with these observers, the protagonist makes a sarcastic remark, seemingly challenging them directly. He bursts out in anger, venting about the sadistic nature of those watching him. His emotions flare, showing his mental exhaustion. He stands before a new threat, a group of imposing figures who appear to be the gods and demons mentioned earlier, signaling that the real challenge is just beginning. The protagonist reflects on how gods and demons constantly watch him, assessing his actions. He considers them disgusting beings, especially after noticing their anger or amusement at his depth. He realizes none of these beings fully reveal themselves, instead plotting to use him for their own purposes. Despite his tutorial success, he makes it clear he doesn't need them as mentors. A notification pops up, indicating a demon is smiling. This sets a tense mood, suggesting something significant is about to unfold. Another message appears, this time identifying the pinnacle of all evil, who casually greets him, asking how he's been, leaving him unsettled. The protagonist instantly recognizes the name Baal and reacts angrily, calling him a stalker. It's evident there's a complicated history between them. A flashback reveals Baal once tried to make him a disciple in a past life. Baal, imposing and terrifying, seems surprised the protagonist recognized him, adding a touch of humor. The protagonist, now more confident, states that he gained a significant benefit from Baal in his past life, but still views him as an annoying stalker. Notifications keep appearing, showing that various gods and demons are interested in the protagonist. He seems exasperated with all the unwanted attention. He bursts out, accusing Baal of being the reason behind all this unwanted focus, expressing a mix of frustration and anger. Surprisingly, a message shows Baal apologizing while other beings discuss their relationship. The tone shifts to something more relaxed, almost ironic. The protagonist loses patience with the constant notifications, like the god of thunder asking to talk and macaque showing interest. He yells, demanding everyone shut up, clearly annoyed by the interruptions. Sarcastically, he questions who they think he'd choose as a mentor. He states that if they want to observe him, they should do it quietly, showing his frustration with their meddling. A notification appears saying the pinnacle of all evil is pouting, adding a humorous and childish tone to the situation. The protagonist declares that even if he chose a mentor, it wouldn't be Baal. He tells the demon to stop dreaming about the idea. Shifting focus, he decides to check his tutorial rewards, showing a casual yet eager attitude to see what he's earned. A dramatic animation shows the protagonist surrounded by energy as he moves to the next stage, leaving the tutorial portal. Status bars appear, showing he gained tolerance to pain, blood loss, penetration, and unconsciousness. His growth is evident with increases in strength, HP, intelligence, and mana. He reflects on how difficult it is to increase mana at this stage but takes pride in achieving it due to his mana affinity. Something rare. A new panel reveals that, due to his progress, a trait has been unlocked. This piques his curiosity about the possibilities ahead. The protagonist notices a notification appearing in front of him, stating that a trait has been unlocked due to his growth. Curious, he wonders what this means. As he processes this, he recalls that he already possesses the gluttony trait and wonders about the mysterious question marks on his status screen. His status panel confirms two traits, gluttony and an unidentified one marked with question marks. He seems to realize that the unknown trait has been there all along. Reflecting on the past, he connects this discovery to the previous owner of his body. It seems that this mysterious trait was not something he acquired but inherited. Suddenly, the notification changes, revealing the new unlocked trait, versatile. The word new stands out brightly on the screen. Confused yet intrigued, he questions what versatile truly means. His curiosity pushes him to delve into its details. The description appears, explaining that versatile allows the user to excel in all techniques by dynamically adjusting proficiency during both training and combat. He grasps the enormity of this ability. The protagonist's face lights up with excitement. Realizing the potential of this new power, he begins imagining what could now be possible with this newfound versatility. He recalls a title he once sought but failed to achieve, All-Master, a legendary status of being the best at everything. With renewed hope, he believes this goal might now be within reach. At the end, a dark entity, the peak of all evil, observes his status and appears intrigued, hinting at a deeper connection or a brewing challenge. The protagonist is shocked by an unexpected realization, his expression frozen in disbelief as he yells out instinctively, overwhelmed by the gravity of what just happened. So, what did you think about that crazy twist? Let me know in the comments what part stood out the most to you and what you think will happen next. Like I said earlier, there's a lot more coming your way. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.